And today I'm very honoured to be joined with Michael Lin. G'day, Michael. How you going?
Hey Scott, how you going? Good,
Good,
good.
mate. Good. So, look, for all those watching and listening on our podcast that's recorded, Michael is very unique in the property space in the sense that he deals in a very select subset of the market. And I came across Michael online, as all good current relationships happen online nowadays. And it was on Facebook or LinkedIn or one of those places. And we started chatting, and then of course we took it offline, which is what you want to do when you want to get to a real relationship, right? Get it off Facebook and out of the CIA's eyes. And the fact is that Michael and I got on really well, and I said, look, I want to introduce some of what you do to our clients, and one of the best ways to do that is this type of arrangement here. We're going to sit down and have a chat. Now, for those of you that watch our broadcast fairly religiously, so to speak, you would know that in the past few months we have talked a lot about some of the product that Michael provides in the market, in the rooming houses, and we usually offer that as a positive cash flow option currently in the Brisbane location because it meets where our market cycles are saying we should be chasing cash flow. So you would have probably recognised Michael's name. The other thing to I'm going to throw out there, and Michael, I don't know if you know this, but one of your properties actually made the HTW report last month and got a mention. I thought I'd throw
Really?
that one on you on live. Yes, mate. Yes,
Oh,
it was the one that we always show as the more of a grey front outlook at the front, and I think it was in one of those inner city suburbs at New Farm or Newstead or one of the places that you talked about, and it was your property because it made a mention of the yield it was getting and sold for this price, blah blah blah. So
okay.
there you go, mate. You're even making waves in the national HTW valuation report. So there you go. So look, I'm going to hand it over to Michael now. Michael, tell us a bit about your background and what drives you and how you ended up getting into rooming houses, and perhaps when you get to that point, tell us exactly what rooming houses are.
Okay. I'll try to keep it succinct. Otherwise, I can ramble on a little bit. Basically, my background's in business. So my family's always been running businesses for about 20 years now. My mother had her first business when she was 13 years old, back when she was in Cambodia. So we're just business. I don't actually have any qualifications other than a crappy graphic design certificate or something that I've never actually used. I've never had to work for anyone before, just basically working in the family. And I guess like my journeys in relation to property is very much the same as business, where I worked with the family and I had to manage a lot of things for them because they, English isn't their first language, and the oldest son's usually responsible for looking after that kind of stuff, making connections and whatnot. And in terms of property, it was the same thing where I had to actually manage a lot of their properties that they had, dealing with agents and all that kind of stuff. And then we started doing a couple of builds, for the family, other members
Yep.
of the family, and that's sort of where I kind of got that experience. But at that time, I never really considered myself a developer because I wasn't doing it for profit. I got all this experience, but I never really made that mind shift. And it wasn't until I started getting into the whole education space, property education, that's when I started expanding what I was actually doing. Everything I was doing was for a commercial reason, not because, I was told to do it. So basically, the reason why I'm where I am is because I guess my goal in life is to improve on what my parents do. So because they're in business, I had to do business coaching and all this kind of stuff and learn all this stuff. Property, same thing. I had to learn what they didn't know because you don't know what you don't know, right? Then there were a lot of things my parents didn't know. They made a lot of mistakes. So to get straight into rooming houses, or just before we get into rooming houses, I'm very interested in affordable housing. It's a topic that's been discussed quite widely, as you're aware, Scott, in the media, in the community, and everything. And we're currently doing a Sydney-based affordable housing project. But between you and I, it's taking a very, very long time to get across the line from approval process. So when I was exposed to the rooming concept, well, I knew about it for maybe about 5-6 years or something. It's been around for like 10 even, but I hadn't actually walked through one, and a friend of mine who's based in Brisbane, invited me to go have a look at one, one that he just completed. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. We'll go have a look. That wasn't my purpose, but it was nearby. And walked in. I thought, this is amazing. This is a great product. And I instantly thought about my family's portfolio because, we're very, what's the word? We're very hive-like in the way my family kind of, it's one big consolidation. We're not separate, if that makes sense. A bit of that Asian mentality. Yeah. So there's a lot of that. My parents had a lot of properties in Brisbane, and they were all underperforming. They were really crap, like just buy and hold, and LMR, that was as good as it got. No yield, just negatively geared, just rubbish, and based on no research at all, just based on I think they bought 4 properties off one agent. Yeah, they bought 4 properties off one agent just because he's, speaks the language that my dad speaks, and 3 of those properties on the same street, but not even adjacent to each other. So, it's just very impulsive kind of decision making, and a lot of people do that. So, you can see why I had to, I put it on myself to find out more, to improve on our investment strategy, because I didn't want what we had to just, kind of just do okay, just do what everyone else is doing. I wanted it to be amazing. So that's why I kind of got into the rooming stuff. I instantly thought of my parents. I instructed them to sell 2 properties in their Brisbane portfolio, and that helped us fund 2 new projects, bought houses. So those ones are doing quite well. They're currently in construction now. Sites are cleared and everything. But the other reason why I love rooming houses, and mind you, there's a bit of confusion for people. I'm not sure, is your audience only Queensland based or Victorian and New South Wales perhaps?
No, mate, all over. Yep.
All over. Okay. So
global, Michael. Global. We global.
Okay. Universal. Okay. Fantastic. So there might be some confusion with the term rooming house. People say rooming houses are in Victoria. They use a similar terminology, rooming houses, and they can get confused. I don't know if you want me to go there, the distinction between the two.
Yeah, but it would be handy because obviously if people are in different states, we want to make sure we're talking about the right thing.
Okay, all right. So Brisbane rooming houses, you can get 5 rooms and it's basically self-assessable. Most cases, if you do it properly, it's self-assessment. What that means is no council required. Just certifier, bang, 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 ticks these boxes and you get them. Sort of like CDC in New South Wales, complying development. And in Victoria, they have something similar as well. It's also called a rooming house, but you can put 9 rooms versus 5. However, in terms of yields, I've done the numbers. I have a couple of friends who are doing them in Victoria as well. And yield-wise, they're either the same or worse than Brisbane ones. Right. And you actually have to put in more capital because it's a 9 rooms. It doesn't mean that I'm buying the same price lot of land as in Brisbane and I can put in 9, whereas this one's putting in 5. That's not the case at all. It's going to cost you more because it's Melbourne versus Queensland, and yield-wise, it's not really that great in my opinion. So you have to put in more capital. The planning process is a little bit more difficult, a little bit more complicated, and there was one more main distinction. If you want yields anywhere close to Brisbane, and I don't mean the same, but close to Brisbane, you'd have to go to regional areas of Melbourne versus actual Melbourne. Whereas in Brisbane, you can do it in the Metro Brisbane area, Brisbane Council, BCC, and still get much better yields. So you're getting that capital growth as well. So those were the reasons why I instantly decided, you know what, we're going to do these, and then kind of haven't looked back with all these other projects that we're doing as well. There's quite a few happening right now all over Brisbane. Not just, the main question people ask me when they want to know about rooming is what areas should I be looking at, what suburbs, and it's like you mentioned earlier, it's a subcategory where it's not dictated by your normal criteria for property. It's not the same thing. You'd be locating areas where It's either in demand or it's near some sort of amenities, near public transport, near, I don't know, Westfields or something like that. Near the uni could work. At the same time, you don't want to pick a place where there's subsidized student housing, because that can obviously affect your demand at the end as well. So yeah,
So just
I don't know.
a
If that's
note
a thought
on
about-
that. Yeah, look, a note
Yes,
on that mention of the uni. So there's a distinction, right? Because these aren't specifically targeting uni accommodation or student accommodation. These are a completely different subset of the market, correct?
that's right. A lot of people assume that we're talking about student housing when you're talking about rooming accommodation. That's not the case at all. I think I mentioned to you before that the property manager that we work with has mentioned that 80% of the tenants that they usually get in this property and in this class of property, and this is all they deal with, they only deal with rooming accommodations. They don't do anything else. They said 80% are women between the ages of 40 and 55 or so. So that's
Wow.
not intentional, but that's just what's happened, you know? So I think there was a recent report by Super Australia, I think it was Super Australia, where they said that the face of poverty is a woman's face in that kind of demographic. So yeah, the future face of poverty, it's kind of alarming. But yeah, students have access to certain housing, you know, subsidized housing, and we're not targeting them. I mean, if they apply, that's not an issue. We'll let them stay there. It's just they're not the target market. It's because there's such a undersupply of affordable housing in the market, you know, for clean, you know, new housing. It's just in decent areas, close to amenities. It's just very rare. So that's why a lot of these kind of projects get rented out very, very quickly. I mean, worst case scenario, we're talking about 2 to 3 weeks, Scott, to get it fully rented. Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's
Yeah,
crazy.
and look, I think you touched on there some of our other conversations, you know, not on the live stream here, which is about your passion. You've got your main projects that you work on, but these almost started as a side passion for you because you had looked into that demographic and said, well, this is the as you said that report about the you know, the future poor of the nation is this demographic of perhaps women between 45 and 55, 40 and 55, whatever. That's really sad. You said you want to do something about that and provide them safe new. So it's just, you know, how did that morph from being an idea in your head and really then what gave you but returns aside, right? Because we can get returns everywhere. What I'm asking is, you know, why did you hone in on this type of market? Because it was it just from your passion, or was it because you were seeing results by providing this housing? Or just
Well,
tell me a bit more about
it was more so like initially it was a commercial decision for, you know, family super or something like that, because it's very, you know, it's high yield. Like net rent will be about 30 to 35,000 per home, per dwelling, and it was just, you know, commercially, it was a commercial decision. However, during the process of figuring out how to do these, you know, speaking to all these different professionals who, you know, specialize in this and building our team, basically, Scott, you know, start to see that, oh crap, this is something where we can really make an impact for the community. I'm what they call social entrepreneurship, which is, you know, you're going to make money, because if you're not making money, then not many things really get across the line. But at the same time, providing some sort of benefit, some sort of need that the community actually requires, you know, that's the best, you know, like making money, helping, you know, the community, providing something that's actually needed, not wanted, but needed. That's amazing. Because, you know, if we just rely on, I you know, being a, you know, business owner, I believe that we can't just keep relying on the government to provide, you know, housing. It's too slow, you know? So if I can kind of put together an arrangement where investors are making money and then tenants are getting, you know, like finding housing that suits their criteria and lovely, beautifully furnished homes, then it's win-win for everybody, you know? So it's yeah, it has turned into a passion, and it has been the focus of, yeah, a lot of my projects in the last, you know, for yeah, the immediate, yeah, last few, I don't know, like maybe 8 months now. No, last 12 months. I've been looking at this stuff for a long time. So just, yeah, we've just really scaled hard now. Yeah.
Yeah. So take us through what a completed product in Brisbane looks like. So we're talking about a 5-bedroom house that looks like a house from the outside, but what's different about it inside that makes it a rooming home? And is there complexities in the construction or anything like that?
There are. Okay, so in terms of construction, we actually put one of the main issues with our rooming is because you've got 5 separate tenants or individuals, not family, noise can be an issue. Just so you know, you're gonna have lots of people in one space. You're gonna have some tension or whatever it is, and it's better to keep them separate. That's what this is all about. We're providing separate dwellings, so each house has its own kind of studio in a way. So I guess the easiest way to explain it is if you understand, it's all on one title. It's very much like a jewel key. Think of a jewel key, right? It's one title, it's one home, but you open a door and there's a door on the left and there's a door on the right.
Yep.
Left is for one person, right is for the second person, right? That's what a jewel key is. That's not duplex, completely different thing. Duplex
Correct.
is like a title and all that kind of stuff. So it's still one owner of that property, but the tenants have their own space. They're not connected or touching in any way except for at the very beginning, right? Like in terms of crossing each other's paths. So this concept is basically, think of it instead of a 2 key, a jewel key, it's a 5 key.
Right.
It's a 5 key. So you go in, you've got a communal kitchen that no one uses because they have their own kitchens in their own studio anyway, and everyone goes to their own room/studio. And in the studio, in the room, they have their own kitchenette, they have their own fridges, they have their own bathrooms, they have their own everything that you would require to have a comfortable kind of living space. And it's very, very well sized. If we find a lot where the building envelope is too small, we don't do it because I don't want to build a product where I wouldn't personally live there. And that was one of the main things that really, when I first went through a rooming house, when I walked through one, I was like, I could live here. Like, you know, this is all right. Like, I could live here. So, you know,
it's always a good test.
Exactly. So in terms of construction, sound insulation is a major issue. So you would have to put extra bats and all that kind of stuff. So nothing massive, but if you miss it, it can make an impact on the end product and your yields, of course. Yeah, and I guess how many complaints you get from your tenants, which is what you want to avoid.
That's right. Yeah. So is the construction horrendously more expensive? Have you got 5 bathrooms and 5 kitchenettes? It's because it's not a full kitchen, right? So it's just a small kitchen, or how's that?
It's I guess you could describe them as wet areas. I mean, I can show you guys some later. But yeah, it is about in the 400 to 430 range in terms of the build costs. I mean, if you know, there are a few builders that specialize in this product, this subcategory, and they're charging like 450 to 470 base, you know. So it really depends on, you know, building. Well, that's what we've done. We've really built that kind of relationship and really getting really, really fantastic results for our clients. Yeah. But
so with in regards to so you've got the right builders on board that specialise in this. That's good. That's a bit of a big win. But when you touched on earlier about approvals or council and what have you, so just can you go through that process before you can get to construction? So what is needed, if anything?
So in terms of requirements, there's no zoning requirements. You don't want a overland flow. I mean, I don't know how deep into the planning we want to get into, but in terms of the approval process, is that what you mean, Scotty?
Okay. Yeah, it's more to do with, you know, can someone put this on any block, or is there certain blocks they should be looking for?
You can put them on LMR, LDR, no issues. So the low density or low medium density, that's not an issue. You want to avoid certain zonings overlays such as flood overlays. That's a big one you want to avoid because then it instantly triggers a DA. Basically, my strategy is I don't want to be stuck in council like I am in New South Wales. I want to avoid council as much as possible. Like I'm going to go in, for that reason. So, the process is very much a self-assessment. So if you're a house, your home, or we would design a home where it ticks all, you get your OC, right? It's a 1A building, which is your standard residential home. After we obtain the OC, we would then change it over to a 1B, which means multiple tenants inside a single dwelling, right? And then That's all done by a certifier. We don't talk to the council. Well, they would have a record of it, but we're not asking for permission. It's all pre-approved in a way. We've ticked all these boxes. You guys can't touch us. Because if you do, for example, that overland flow I kept mentioning, if DA gets triggered, Brisbane Council formally via DA allows you to do rooming houses because it's something they're actually promoting. However, you will be up for infrastructure charges or contributions or gifts, and it works out to be about 20 grand per studio. So if you're doing a 5-bedder, which is what you should be doing, that's 100K off the bat. You've lost already. So that's a big hit for any development. And that's why it's really important to work with the right team who know what they're doing and you're not going to build in the wrong area, because that's actually happened. And that's even with, builders who know what they're doing. It's not their job to tell you this, the planning side of everything and, all that. Yeah, because the town plan is not involved. Yeah.
So the land's fairly good. Just got to get a decent one, look at that, get the right builder. So we've come to the end of the project now. It's constructed. You touched on it. Only took 2 to 3 weeks maximum to get them all rented. Is that correct? And you use a specialised rental manager that specialises in this.
Yes, that's right. So worst case scenario, 2 to 3 weeks. There was one that rented 5 days. That one was in North Brisbane. Another one, in the Cannon Hill Morningside area, just rented in 1 weekend. They set a record for the area for roomings at $340 per room.
$340 a room. Right.
Yep, and they did 2 of them, so that's 10 rooms. So that's $3,400 a week. And I know how much. Nuts. I know who the agent was who sold that. I know what the price was. I know what the build costs are, and it's like, oh, they did all right, So. But yeah, there's tons of examples. Oh, another thing is you don't need to build them on a 400 block. So you can build them just like a regular home. You can build on a 300 square meter lot in Brisbane, not your standard size, your small lot. You can build on a 300 square meter lot. I mean, one of my clients is building on a slightly smaller than 300, so 295. And a really weird shape, triangular shape kind of block, not even your beautiful rectangles, not your squares, just a weird shape one. And 5 rooms on a 295 square meter block, doing very well.
Wow. So you've got the rental manager sorted, it's rented now, and have you got it maybe in an average of what to expect? So we've paid X for the block, for the build. Our total construction costs is, 900, 950, whatever you're going to say. And what sort of rent? Just tell us a bit about that. And because the other thing I'm interested in is also what is the value uplift, if any? So it's cost us $1 million to do this, but is it worth 1.2? Is it worth $1 million? Is it worth 1.5? Tell us a bit about that.
Well, we definitely see a equity uplift in the finished product. It's a bit hard to validate that just because most people end up keeping them because the yield's so good, or they're transferring to their own super or whatever it is. So because this is really a subcategory, there's not enough data on the market. I have seen a few that have sold recently, and they were getting about $100,000 uplift. However, in my opinion, being someone based in Sydney, I think those numbers are quite low. Like it should be 150 to 200, which is why on the exit strategy end, I'm working with a lot of agents who deal with overseas investors or even Sydney-based investors, where if they're buying something for $1.2 million and it's getting them $1,500 a week, which is very conservative. Like my family's one's going to get 16 each easily, but let's just say 1,500. That's crazy, yields for them already. So why can't it be achieved? It's just people are marketing it to Brisbane people, and they're not very common. That's the thing. So I've only seen like 2 in the last so well. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We've heard just on that. So what is our total cost base as an average? And if you're looking at Brisbane, is it under $1 million? And what sort of returns are we looking? Yep, under $1 million.
We're looking about 850 to 950. I wouldn't spend more than 950 on a rooming, to be honest. But it depends on the area. It depends on what your strategy is. So there's always two avenues where You can either go straight for cash flow only, and the cheapest area, I don't care, as long as it's near a station, I know I'm going to get rentals. That's one way of going about it, all about cash flow. And then the other way is I want it in a decent area within 10 Ks, and it's going to get some capital growth, but still be positively cash flow. Like, we're talking about 25 to 30 grand. Still, it's just going to cost a bit more, whatever it is. The yield will be slightly different, obviously, but it really depends on what the investor's strategy is. But I've found that majority of my Sydney investors are interested in cash flow, and I would say more interested in cash flow than capital growth. But I've still got quite a few that within the 10 Ks of the CBD, and we're gonna try to sell them. That's what we're aiming to do when they're finished. Have them tenanted as soon as possible and sell them, and validate the model. So and at the end of the day, whether I own it or one of my clients owns it or they sell it on, it's still a product that's there for the community.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Hey, Michael, we've got a question come in from Alicia. What's the required parking with this sort of stuff?
So 1B, you're required to provide, I like this little setup, Scott. It's really, I like that.
That's mate, cool. Nothing but the best. Remember, we are global, remember? So,
Yes, that's right. So Alicia, for a 1A building, you only need to provide one car park space, but once it becomes a 1B, which is multiple tenants, you are required to provide 2 car park spaces. However, you should keep that in consideration. So a lot of our builds, we try to have at least minimum of 4 car park spaces, like off-street car park spaces. It really depends on each site. We assess each site differently. If it's on a road where there's no off-street parking, then we would really move mountains to make sure that we have ample car park spaces, because you don't want them parking on a major road and they have to walk down 150 meters to get to their car. But yeah, parking is 2 car park spaces basically is the min.
Okay. And the other question she had was the utility meters. Is everything metered individually?
So the utility meters are for each property. They're not individually metered for each dwelling or each suite. So the way we package this rooming service, so let's just use that example. That was $340, right? That would be including power, water, internet, basically everything. They just need to move in. And even providing those services, you're still up like net, 30 to 35K in terms of rental. But the other thing is you can offset a lot of the expenses, such as power, by providing solar panels. And a lot of our cases, they're either paying very, very minimal amounts or even being given money back by the grid, which is pretty awesome, because Queensland has this, amazing returns for solar versus other states. So I don't know how long that's going to last, but yeah, definitely something I highly recommend to all my clients is put in the solar panels. It's worth the money. You'll get that money back straight away.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's good. Look, Queensland is just an amazing state anyway, mate. So it's just the way it goes, really. So, well, look, I'd love to touch base again with you in the months to come about how some of these projects have gone with that equity uplift. Because one of the things we deal a lot with clients is the cash flow side, which is why you're talking now, but also to have that security of an exit strategy if you have to. And if it's cost you $950 to get in, are we going to get out at $950? We're going to get out at 1.2. That's my gut's telling me that when the market accepts these to be priced as on the yield, right? They're going to pick a yield figure, right? And so what they're going to do is we're going to get the uplift on the property through the yield figure, much like a commercial transaction.
That's true. I think that there's 2 factors. Is because it's very much unknown kind of category that's affected the equity price, GRV at the end of the day. But build to rent is not. It's still relatively new concept in Australia.
Yes.
It's not going to always be that way. Investors are starting to click onto the fact that, hey, I'm getting, why would I buy something in Sydney for like, $800,000, $900,000 and get like $500-600 in rent a week, or I could pay the exact same thing, brand new home in Brisbane in a good area and still get $1,500 to $1,600. It's just, it just makes a lot of sense. It's crazy. one more thing I want to mention before, just something else, Scotty, was these rooming accoms actually, we've kind of made it so that you don't have to get commercial loans as well. You can put it through as a resi, which is a huge advantage for the investors,
Yes.
for our clients. Because commercial, you get to pay money for valuations, for applications, and your LVRs are lower, your interest rates are higher. So very much residential loan. Yeah, no issues at all. Yeah.
Mate, I know that we make a thing of keeping it pretty short and sweet. Is there anything that you needed to show us on the screen? If not, we'll call it a day.
I'll just show you real quick, like maybe just what something looks like, right? So that's what it looks like from external. Like,
Mate,
it's just an example.
That's the one. That's the one that was in the HCW report.
Oh, awesome. Okay. I didn't manage this one completely. This is something that was done with somebody else together. But yeah, it's good to hear that our project did really well. And as you can see from the internal pictures, the result is justified. I mean, who couldn't live in this kind of accommodation? I could.
Yeah.
Much nicer than my room, I'll be honest. There's the bathroom. Like, I'll be honest, it's much nicer than my current accommodation because we move all over the place. But yeah, there's the kitchenette. As you can see, got your microwave. There's also a fridge. You just can't see it. Oh wait, maybe the next picture you can. There's the fridge right next to it. And you just have to have a hot plate. But most people, individuals don't really want to cook large batches, so they don't need to cook. But if they do need to cook, they just have to go to the communal kitchen that's downstairs. It's massive. It's a fully functioning kitchen with an oven and all that kind of stuff. But most people don't actually care about that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good, mate. There's some good pictures there. And look, we got one last question, which I think you might have touched on earlier, is there only one set of headworks? And yes, you were saying because it's under the house and not a development, as soon as you go to DA, then we're going to get other headworks charges. But if we keep out of DA, am I understanding that correct?
That's right. You wouldn't have to pay any contributions because you're still claiming that credit from the council
Yes.
for that one dwelling, because you've already, say for example, it's a subdivided block, they've already paid the contributions to subdivide that block for you, right? If you're buying a brand new subdivided block, so you wouldn't have to pay any of that kind of contributions to them. You have a credit on it already. But there are, like I said, if you do it the wrong way, you can get stuffed with some infrastructure charges if you do it in the wrong area and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So it's really important to work with the right team.
Yeah, that's a good point. And Liz is also asking where she can get complete plans. I'm about to chuck an email address up here where people can contact us, and we'll put you in touch with Michael and plans and a few other bits and pieces of what he's doing. So we'll chuck that up in a sec. And so, yeah, if you want to shoot an email, either jump on our page here on Zenium Real Wealth page, on the YouTube page, on the Real Property Advice YouTube page, any of that stuff, hit us up there, or on this email that's on the screen you can see here, which is hello@zenium.property. That's it. No .coms, no .aus. We're a multinational global company, as you can tell. All right, mate, that's been very, very informative. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate your time coming on our Zenium Real Wealth show today. Yeah, mate, it's a pleasure. As I said, I'd love to chat to you again in a few months when some of those projects have gone through. Not for the rental side, obviously, because we've got that a good understanding today, but from that resale side, anytime either one of your clients does something, if we can go and run through that project, that'd be really great to have a look at that. Yeah, and before we go, if you want to know more about Michael's projects, positive cash flow, property development, buying at a discount, and our Zenium Action Compass right here, you need to join Zenium. And so you need to go to www.zenium.property/join, and you join up with Zenium. It's free. You get all this information. You get our updates. You get notified when we're going live once or twice a week, all that sort of stuff. It's good information, and you'll never need to ask for a refund because it hasn't cost you anything. Great value for money in that regard. All right, Michael, thank you very much again for joining us today. Mate, I look forward to seeing you again, and I like what you're doing, and I love the fact that you focus on providing that for the community, and it is a true win-win for everyone.
That's right. Win-win. Always win-win.
Always win-win. All right, this is Michael Lin. I've been interviewing today, who does rooming accommodation. I'm Scotty from Zenium Real Wealth, and that's it. Till next time, be good.